video. I can see your video right now.
You see Jack?
I can see Jackson's, yeah.
Oh,
Right now?
Yeah.
I can't see me though.
You look animated because you have your background blurred, but
yeah.
looks like you're in front of a
Okay, I can't do that. I guess
Alright. So I guess we'll just we can honestly go into this, and if Jackson, if you just want to take over and kind of talk about why everyone that doubted the Bruins were wrong and 7-2 was the deal breaker.
No, not yet. It's not time for that yet. If we win the cup, I'll go on a tirade.
Yeah. Oh, well, I was gonna say, I was like, we haven't had you on the podcast yet, and we might as well just wait to see the outcome of this series.
Yeah, I mean, I want you to put me on the podcast if we win, just so I can talk about Tuukka.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because if they win the podcast, if they win the cup, I guess Tuukka is good. So it happens.
I mean, I would argue he's good either way, but I think everybody, yeah, it's
I
an
guess
easier.
I guess let's just say there's no debate anymore.
It's an easier argument if they win. Yeah. All right. We're gonna start. I have a couple topics.
Yeah.
It's gonna be like obviously the physicality, the Blues forecheck, because that's been like what the entire series is. The play of the two goalies, and then just basically strategy between the teams, like what each team can do to get around the other team.
Sounds good. Yeah, I mean, Zach and I just, once we know the topic, we just keep going. What's up, Zach? You look like you're.
I'm just a little in and out on Skype. I don't know.
All right, I'll address it early on, and if there's a pause, I'll just re-ask a question.
Okay.
All right, I'll start at the 2:45 mark, so 10 seconds. What is up, everybody? This is not Puck Pass. This is a special Belly Up Stanley Cup roundtable with myself, Jackson Temple, and ZachMac, the one you all know and love. What's up, guys? How are you tonight?
What's up, KJ?
Doing well, gentlemen. Very.
All right, we've got a huge game 4 tonight, obviously. Bruins are up 2-1. I'll let you kind of go into your biggest story. You guys go into your biggest storylines tonight. Mine's pretty simple. So, Jackson, you were talking about a couple things off air. Going into tonight, what's the biggest thing for the Bruins?
I think it's pretty obvious. It's whether Binnington can bounce back. He was absolutely terrible in game 3. He's been bad the whole series, really, and I've been saying not many people have been agreeing with me on it, but I've been saying that he's been kind of bad in game 1. Goals not totally unforgivable, but definitely savable. And then game 2, I mean, they basically won despite him. He gave up 2 soft 5-hole goals, and then obviously game 3, everything fell apart. So I think he really needs to show up in game 4.
Yeah, he's been. I mean, I wasn't ready to say bad until like the end of midway through the second period of game 3. Bad goals, yeah, but it became clear that the moment was too big for him in game 3 and at home, which is scary to think about for the Blues. Zach, if you're the Blues, what's the one thing you're trying to get done going into this game?
Yeah, so my original point was going to be Jordan Binnington. I think the Blues have kind of solved that. It seems 5 holes is weakness so far, and just kind of down low in general. It seems like they've taken care of. So I too was going to look to see if he kind of got it all out of his system. I tend to agree with Jackson. I don't think Binnington's been strong all series long, to be honest. So I'm just looking to see if he got that all out of his system, and he's back to playing Jordan Binnington hockey. Other than that, I just want to keep the forecheck up. I don't want Boston to think that they've got us cornered at all. It really is the biggest thing I'm looking for the Blues.
Yeah, and by the way, ZachMac's the only one on his phone. So I heard all that, but if it doesn't come through all the way, he basically reiterated what Jackson said and the Blues need to make sure that especially Boston's top line don't corner them. And I think that's a good point because we talked this week on the podcast about Boston's top line. And how long it took them to kind of get going. And not that they weren't completely there the first 2 games, but nothing like we're used to. Is that about to turn turn around and we're going to see the best of the best here from Boston, Jackson?
Yeah, so I mean, I don't even really think that they were that good in Game 3. I mean, they were a little better than the flat out goose egg they laid in Game 2 and Game 1 too. But so I don't think they were that good. They were spending a little more time in the offensive zone, which is encouraging, and they were making plays more. But I mean, it's a different style because they're the line that never plays chip, chase, and check hockey, and that's basically what you got to do because the Blues defense, it's kind of infuriating to watch as a member of the opposing team because they basically just run at you. That's all they're doing. So you get the puck and a check is coming and then, you get around that, whatever, you're going to have to slow down. The next layer is coming. So you get pucks in deep and basically what they do every time is they have all three forwards go and back check when you get the puck in deep. So from there, it has to kick out to the point. And they did that a little bit in Game 3, and it worked really well for them. That's why Torrey Krug had such a big impact because they were getting the puck in deep and then kicking it back out to the point. When you do kick it back out to the point, there's so much room. So I think that's going to be something. And it's an adjustment that's, I think, difficult for them to make because they're used to just flying through the neutral zone and carrying it right in. But I think they're on their way there.
Yeah, I thought that style of play, especially from St. Louis's defense, would benefit the Bruins quicker. I thought they'd be able to not fully adjust because they did obviously adjust as well as they could early on. But I thought right away that would be the biggest issue for the Blues is being a little bit too aggressive and trying to lay those big hits, especially on guys that they don't want going full speed through the neutral zone like Pasternak and Marchand. If you can make them second guess their path to the offensive zone, you're doing your job. And Boston or St. Louis hasn't done a ton of that so far, and they'll need to tonight. Absolutely. That was my biggest thing is continuing, not abandoning everything you did in Game 1 and Game 2 because of the way you lost in Game 3. They obviously certain things need to change, but you didn't. I mean, you blew a 2-goal lead, but you didn't play terrible in Game 1. In Game 2, like Jackson said, you won despite some so-so goaltending. So they need to just
they were buzzing in Game 2.
Yeah, they need to stick with it and keep doing what they did in Game 1 and Game 2 and kind of let Game 3 be the outlier, because if you can get that game back tonight, we're looking at 7 games, no question. But if they come out flat tonight, like they very well could after a game like Game 3, we're looking at something quick here. What has to happen? Not so. We talked about Binnington. We talked about Boston's top line. What do you guys like Ryan O'Reilly and Jaden Schwartz, who had a great first 3 rounds and kind of fallen off so far this series? What do they have to do to solve Tuukka Rask, or at least the blue line for Boston? Either one.
This is got to be like up and down throughout the Blues lineup has got to be the biggest must-win game mentally that they have ever played in. Yeah. You haven't been the Cup hasn't been in St. Louis since God knows who was alive, and I know none of us were. And now you're about to drop both games if you drop both games that are here and go back to Boston 3-1, you're in huge danger of losing that game. And then your home team doesn't see a Stanley Cup victory at home. Home crowd doesn't see one forever. Like it's got to be top to bottom. And so you're right. And bringing up Schwartz, Shen, O'Reilly, guys that basically aren't Tarasenko or Pietrangelo. You've got to treat this like it's the most important game of your life. And because honestly it is. And for the fans, for everyone who fought for you since January 1st, 2nd, 3rd, whenever you were last in the standings, it's gotta be mental, and it's gotta come from everyone.
Yeah, and I made a comment on this after Game 3 that they're gonna come out harder than they ever have, and if the Bruins win this Game 4, you got to hand it to them because this is going to be the toughest game to win that they've played so far. As far as solving Tuukka Rask, I mean, you really got to take his eyes away. Every goal that they've scored this series has been either a shot from the point where there was a screen or a lucky tip. So Tuukka's just in that zone where it's awesome to watch. He's kind of, if he sees it, he's saving it. What they can't do to beat him is run him all the fucking time. Because
that's
I don't know if you
been
guys
brutal. That's been brutal. I
don't know if
admit.
you guys as neutral observers, if this pisses you off as much as it does me, but oh my God, stop running my goalie. Like, Perron. I hate that guy. What? Stop.
It's Bush League strategy.
He checks him into the pipe. He runs out. He gives him an elbow to the back. I mean, and this is something Foligno is doing it in the Columbus series. A bunch of guys were doing it. I mean, Carolina knew they were outmatched, so they were taking runs at people all the time. But it's just, I mean, you're not going to get in his head like that. Binnington gave him a bump at one point. Like, it's not working.
Yeah,
because Tuukka plays with no emotion, so it's hard to get in his head like that.
He's a lot like Braden Holtby to me, where like sometimes I feel like I feel like I have to check Braden Holtby's pulse when he's between the pipes. Like he's so flat, and I'm seeing more of that from Tuukka, especially in these playoffs. And I know he's always like that, but he's been so on top of it, especially these last two rounds where you can see it all the time. And I don't love the strategy, but I'm as a neutral observer. And if it was Crawford, I'd be saying something different, especially with his injury history. But I don't love and it's across all sports, whether it's the point guard, the quarterback, the pitcher, catcher, or the goaltender. The unwritten rule protects them. There's goalie interference, and if it gets to that point, then it's a penalty. But I've always been against the unwritten, don't do this because our ancestors didn't do this type thing in all sports. But I don't fault Boston fans for being like, what the hell is going on? Is something is somebody going to stop this?
He did get a penalty for it too at the end of game 3, which was enjoyable to see. They in game 2 they also got 2 penalties for goalie interference. So it's nice to see that the refs are taking notice. Also, by the way, all the Tuukka haters, as a proud member of the Boohoo Tuukka crew myself, all the Tuukka haters in Boston can't say that he's soft anymore after the shit he's gone through these playoffs. Stop saying he's soft. He's clearly not. Like,
was that a thing that Tuukka was soft? Because I
don't know that was a narrative either.
I've heard the Tuukka's bad or Tuukka can't lead us back to the cup, which obviously is already over. But I didn't know that Tuukka was soft physically or mentally. I didn't know that was like a whole contingency in at least Boston sports or wherever it comes from. Because not to get too off topic, but there was a divide in Boston, right, about Tuukka. Like that's kind of how this started.
I wouldn't call it a divide so much as a vocal minority, but I mean there was a debate.
Yeah. That's tough. And Zach, being a Red Wings fan, he's heard it all before when Mrazek and Howard stuff started. So, but obviously Halak is not Rask.
Right now.
Yeah.
The thing is, if Rask started playing badly, I'd feel just as comfortable with Yarrow and Ned. He's had a great season.
Yeah, no, I would too, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean he saved the Canadians. He can save anybody, I guess, at this point. I'm watching the pregame. I don't know if you guys have the pregame up. We're recording this at 8:12, and they're still outside covering the game. So we've got plenty of time before this gets started. The St. Louis crowd is going to be a huge factor tonight because they're going to be excited. And Zach, you mentioned it before. This could be the last time they see this team this season, and who knows how long it'll be before they're back in the Cup final. If you're Craig Berube, because we talked about his coaching adjustments on the podcast, going into this game, he's going to talk to somebody. He's going to pull somebody aside and say, this has to be it. They don't have to wear a C on their chest to be the leader of this game. Who are you pulling aside and it? What are you doing? Who are you pulling aside and letting them know they got to be ready tonight on St. Louis?
Circle or lines, I don't know how the St. Louis locker room is, but
if there's one guy that's got to be better than the rest of the team, all of them. I mean, does he just address the entire group as a captain and say
whoever he sees kisser? From what I heard.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if you got Gunnarsson at the urinal, you ask him where the game winner's going to be at, which was an awesome storyline coming out of Game 2. I did like that a lot. I just think somebody's got it, and I don't know who it is because it's been real inconsistent from player to player for St. Louis, but somebody has to be the spark plug, whether it's like the Giroux shift a couple years ago against Pittsburgh, when he called a shot. Or
part of me thinks Robert Thomas, to be honest with you.
He's back in the. I've been
he-
off my phone all day. I didn't know if he was back in the lineup or not.
He's like very injured, isn't he?
Oh, is he
So
not
it
playing?
wasn't. It wasn't because of the hit they claim, which is
Well, I don't think it was. I think he was having injury problems before, but I mean, acting like the hit had nothing to do with it is ludicrous.
yeah. That hit.
Is he not back?
I had to look it up. We'll vamp for a second while I look it up because
Might not be. I don't know.
the Blues. Yeah, I mean, it says he's back in the lineup. That doesn't mean he'll play, but
Sundqvist, he wasn't there for Game 3. He's the only one who
Sundqvist
wasn't
provided spark. He
wasn't
could
bad.
provide that spark.
I thought Sundqvist was like one of their worst players for the first 2 games. I was actually disappointed to see that he got suspended.
Yeah, I said that too. That both teams lost a player on that hit, and neither one would totally affect the series. So
Grizz is actually pretty important, I'd say, to the series because his work through the neutral zone, his offensive instincts going up through the neutral zone, similar to McAvoy. He brings that to the table, which is, I mean, and that's the kind of thing. That's how you have to beat the St. Louis forecheck because they're coming for you. It's quick decision making. It's not like the amount of times that the Bruins in all the first 3 games have just turned the puck over right in front of their own net. It drives me crazy.
yeah, I mean, especially that turnover, not right in front of the net, but little turnovers are. I don't know. Turnovers could be the only reason the series isn't 3-0.
Yeah, that and not being able to clear the puck. Oh my God, man, it's been awful.
Yeah, it's been bad. As the guy in the Brendan Shanahan Blues jersey crosses in front of my screen, Sundqvist could be that because he could provide a spark and he's been bad. He might be due. To me, Tarasenko's got to come out and he's got to do something. I mean, he's big enough to lay a hit if he wants to, but he's got to at least hit the post. You know what I mean? It's like one of those things where they're so close right off the bat, you can feel it. Like Tyler Sagan's the best at that. He'll hit the post in the first 5 minutes of a game, and you know that goal's coming in the first period. It's got to be someone like that, or St. Louis has to be fearful that they're going to Boston in a huge hole.
I feel like that's how they came out in Game 2, and that's the only reason they were able to win it.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, they came out hard in Game 2. I expect them to come out harder this game, but I mean, I'm really curious to see what we're gonna see from Boston. If we're gonna see more of the kind of, because I've said it before, I really don't think they played that well in Game 3. I thought they got. I mean, going 4 for 4 on 4 shots on the power play is like, a couple of those were tips. And you take away those 4 goals and the empty netter, it's a 2-2 game. So like, I don't know. I thought they could have been better. They made some mental mistakes. So if they improve and St. Louis comes out hard, I actually feel pretty good coming into this game.
I think the number one thing, and I passed up on this earlier, but in the first 2 games, there was a lot of both teams answering the bell when it needed to happen. Like Boston in Game 2 scored first, and then St. Louis, and then Boston, and then St. Louis, and then that's how we end up in overtime. And Boston answered the 2-goal lead or 2-goal deficit in Game 1. Obviously, it didn't happen in Game 3. If this is how we get the entire rest of the series, however long that is, we're in for great hockey no matter what. And as someone who hates the Blues going into this series, but not nearly as much as the other guys, I'm just rooting for good hockey because we're dangerously close to the casual fan tuning out.
Yeah. Yeah. And on that, another interesting point to consider, as far as you might think the Blues are gonna obviously want this game more than the Bruins are, right? The Bruins are going right back, but in 2013 they were also up 2-1 going into a Game 4, and so the veterans on the team remember that, and that's definitely part of the message in that locker room is, look, we've been exactly here before, and it can slip away that fast, so you can't really let up at all.
That 2013 run,
they were up 2-1 going into the final minute of Game 6 that year too. Things happen fast.
Whatever. That Blackhawks team was a wagon, man.
They're
that Blackhawks team was like the 2018 Red Sox. They were ridiculous.
We get rid of Jordan and this guy comes in. I mean, Zach, what are we supposed to do with the type of content we're provided here? No, but you're right, and it's exciting to as much as I know I'm tweeting out something that you're about to reply to. It is fun to see your reaction to everything that happens because I do think there's a center point for a lot of things. Like, yeah, they got some good tips, and a lot of the most important goals this series have been, or at least the momentum swinging goals have been kind of weird tips, awkward goals for both goaltenders. But
Let's playoff hockey.
yeah, and that's how it's going to be. But I think they played better than just okay in Game 3, and I think both teams are going to play really well tonight. If this game is 4-3, if it's 1-0 or 5-4, neither would surprise me, and I think we're getting the best out of St. Louis if they come out with a victory and a really good game out of Boston, which will just throw us into another vortex of, yeah, Boston's looked better in their wins, but who is going to get that one goal in 5 or 6 that's going to turn the tides here? Because as much as it pains me to say, Boston's in control right now, but they don't have to be after this game. St. Louis doesn't have to think that every game is going to be their last if they can come out strong here.
It's all about execution. That's all that matters.
If St. Louis wins, I'm gonna write an article about the 2013 Boston Path and this year's Boston Path.
That'll jinx them.
I would love it if you did.
Yeah, you mean like the Dallas Stars, Stars article I wrote right after they got That was real slick by me. Listen, guys, we're getting into national anthems. Any last thoughts going into Game 4?
None. I'm gonna go watch it.
You're gonna go watch it. That's fair, Jackson. I'm gonna call Jackson. You're going by Jackson, Boston Jackson. We all have nicknames here. That's what Jackson gets. You're going from both teams. X Factor right now. Not the storyline. The X Factor, the actual player.
All right. For the Bruins, it's Corrali. His physical presence. He's really good at hockey. Love to see him have his first multi-goal game of the playoffs. Who knows? For the Blues, I don't know. Tarasenko, someone who can score. I mean, they got to beat Tuukka. It hasn't really changed for me from the beginning of the series. They just their biggest problem right now is beating Tuukka. They came out so hard at the beginning of Game 3 and just couldn't get one past him.
Yeah. They're going to win the game on second chance opportunities, it feels like, because that first shot, like you said, if that first shot isn't deflected, it's not getting by them.
Right.
So, and Tarasenko scored that really nice double rebound, crazy goal in Game 2. So it happens, and we're going to get a good one here.
Mm-hmm. Another interesting thing on Binnington, by the way, is that after he got pulled, he did not come back to the bench until the next period. Interesting to see what the team thinks of that. If that turns into anything, we'll see.
Yeah, well, because we talked before, and I don't know if it was to you, Jackson, or to Zach, but these guys are playing for Binnington. Like, they were playing for Binnington. If there was any sort of doubt in their mind that he might not be he was a team guy when they were winning. But if things stop going his way, if he loses that mentality, that'll change how guys play for you. It'll be interesting to watch, especially as we get started here. So ZachMac, Jackson from Boston. That's what we'll keep it as. Guys, enjoy the game. As much as happy as I am for you, Jackson, I hope you're not celebrating after this game. And we'll hopefully be back.
We just win so much, I don't even celebrate anymore, man.
Yeah, is that why your background's blurred? It's just all the championship trophies. Just
I get sicker and sicker the longer this goes. Can we wrap it up?
Yeah. Well, it's time to wrap it up. For ZachMac, for Boston Jackson, I'm KJ. This has been the Belly Up Stanley Cup Roundup. Oh, Brett Hull's on the screen. Okay, we'll see you guys next game. Thank you.